We are kicking off a series on navigating mental and relational health during the holiday season. For many, the holidays can bring stress, anxiety, sadness, grief, and loneliness. To support you, I am offering a free live and interactive Zoom workshop where you'll learn practical self care techniques as well as boundary setting strategies to manage holiday stress. While it's not therapy, this workshop does provide tools and insights to help you approach the holidays with greater intentionality and a focus on your mental wellness. If you're not able to attend it live, you will be sent the replay after the event. To register, click the link in the show notes or visit jenalley.com/holidays. Hi, friend. Welcome to the Mental Health Coach podcast. Do you struggle to feel as present and joyful as you'd like to in this season of life? Are you feeling overwhelmed with juggling so much between work, worrying about your kids, and managing all the things? Hi, I'm Jen Alley. I'm a mom, a wife, and a licensed professional counselor. I know that even good lives come with challenges: parenting struggles, loneliness, marriage problems, trauma, addiction, and financial stress, just to name a few. I have been guilty of trying to get through the hard times alone and presenting a polished exterior while struggling on the inside. In this podcast, I will share brain science, intentional practices, and real-life stories to help you better understand yourself and improve your connection with others. Think of me as your friendly mental health coach. The same way that you turn to a personal trainer for your physical health, I'm here to teach you important emotional and relational skills to help guide you through life's challenges. As a reminder, this podcast is not therapy, but it is a great adjunct to therapy. So if you're ready for some coaching and support as you navigate your life with less overwhelm and more joy, I'm ready to walk beside you. Throw on your tennies, pop in your earbuds, and let's walk and talk. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Mental Health Coach podcast. Today, we're diving into something that many of us feel but don't always talk about, and that is holiday stress. While this season is advertised as the most wonderful time of the year, it often feels really challenging, emotionally draining, stressful, and even painful for many people. As an experiment, I had posted a question on my personal Facebook page, just asking some of my friends, what comes up when you think about the holidays? What are some of your worries or challenges that you have? And there were a lot of responses. So I wanted to share some of those today with you in case you are feeling any of these. First of all, the worry of creating perfect memories for our kids and forgetting to be a part of the memories. I know for me, this can be really a hard one where I can work really hard, not just at the holiday time, but all the time trying to make things special for my family. And then sometimes I fail to even be present when the thing is happening because I'm trying so hard to make everything perfect. Also, a lot of people get stressed about how do I divvy up our time? How do I make it fair and equal? Or if we're closer in proximity, or if people live far away, how are we supposed to balance all of this? So it comes along with feelings of guilt or upset, or it can cause a lot of conflict, especially when we think about in-laws or in situations of divorced parents or grandparents. There can be a lot of challenges of how do we try to meet the expectations of others, but also take care of ourselves. Another challenge that people talked about was that they feel really stressed financially during this time of year. There can, again, be a lot of guilt or shame if you feel like you can't do it. And a lot of people even go into debt trying to make things special and ignore their own boundaries in order to keep the peace. And with this, I was thinking it's also true that a lot of times gift giving can become the focus, even though we don't want it to be. And it's hard to remember sometimes that it's really not about the gifts. It is about the time together. And with that, there was stress that was mentioned about trying to find the perfect gift for each person. Also navigating interreligious households or where one parent does not have any religious beliefs or affiliations, but the other one does. And also, how do we navigate traditions? A lot of times, maybe parents and grandparents have certain traditions that they are wanting to uphold. And when do we know if it's time to break away and make our own new ones? And again, with a lot of these, it's how do we manage other people's disappointment or anger or upset, and even our own feelings about that. Other people talked about the workload and the preparation. And as we know, and we've talked about before on the podcast, women in general in many households already have an invisible work week of tasks that they do for the kids and for the family and for the school stuff. And many times the holidays add to that invisible load on women and mothers, taking on things like shopping, planning, preparing, doing the cards, and on and on. And of course, a lot of people have a lot of work stress trying to manage various expectations between events and family obligations and trying to get some downtime or some quiet time. And then sometimes we have to do things that we don't want to do. And finally, managing really difficult feelings that can come up around the holidays, like grief and loneliness and sadness, and navigating the expectation versus reality, which we're going to talk about more. So I hope that as you're listening to this list, if you are feeling stressed about the holidays or upset about the holidays, I hope you feel less alone, because these literally came from other people who are also sharing those concerns. So today we're going to share strategies to help you navigate this time of year with more peace and more intention. So let's go ahead and take a moment, and I want you, if it feels okay, to check in with yourself. When you think about the holidays, what comes up? What emotions do you have? And maybe there are contradictory feelings or different parts of you that feel differently. What images or memories or pictures come up for you when you think about the holidays? Do you notice any body sensations or thoughts as you think about the holidays? Do you notice expansion or constriction in your body? And maybe you want to run and hide under the covers, or maybe you're really excited and you're ready to greet the holidays with bells. But I just want to say that whatever you're noticing right now makes sense based on your history and experience. And so we want to try not to be judgmental of those things that we noticed or observed, but we just want to be like, of course, it makes sense that I feel this way or that I'm going through that. So I want you to take a moment now to envision, what are my expectations of the holidays? What's my hope for this holiday season? You might take a moment to check in with the reality of past holidays. And so let's come back now for a moment to this expectation versus reality gap. Again, we are bombarded with images and messages of creating the perfect holiday, the laughter, the joy, the family connections, the twinkle lights. And social media only adds to this, showing us carefully curated moments that often feel impossible to replicate. And I know for so many of us, it can be easy to imagine that these pictures on other people's feeds are the whole picture. But it reminds me of our own holiday photo shoots. I've shared this before on the podcast, but literally every single time we have had a family photo shoot, I say at the end, we are never doing this again. And that is because while the images, the final product turns out beautifully and we look like we get along so well and we're having so much fun, the truth is that no one wants to wear what they're wearing, even though it is the one time of the year where I ask people to, even if I let them have some autonomy, that I do have more say in what everyone is wearing. Everyone's uncomfortable. No one wants to smile, right? Everybody wants to be doing something else during that time. And so if you just looked at the final product, you would think, wow, like what a lovely family. And that's kind of true, but that's not the full picture, right? There's a lot going on. There's a lot of stressful moments leading up to that. There's a lot of unhappiness. There's a lot of big feelings about it. And that's true of really the social media feeds in general, but also it is true of the holidays. So I want you to try to remember that when you see other people's feeds, that's not usually the full picture. So I think even with this, it makes me think again about expectation versus reality, because it's kind of like family vacations, right? We have this image of our family going to the beach, having the most amazing time, playing games, laughing. And some of that is true usually, but some of that is also conflict, just like it is at home. I mean, we've uprooted the same dynamics and we've just placed them in a different setting. So of course the kids are going to fight. Of course, everyone's going to get hangry. Of course, there's going to be overtiredness that happens. Of course, there's going to be positive moments and hard moments. And I think it's important to not lose sight of that this is also true of the holidays, that probably there are going to be really good things and good moments, and there's also probably going to be hard moments. Let's also talk about stress. As we explored in episodes 7, 15, and 46 of this podcast, our bodies have a natural response to stress, both positive and negative, and it can make us feel on edge. And around the holidays, this can get amplified. So for many people, this time of year can feel incredibly stressful. The extra responsibilities, the extra decisions, the exhaustion, as we talked about, having to do things maybe we don't want to do or crossing our own boundaries can lead to spikes in cortisol and adrenaline, which can add to our feelings of overwhelm. So again, if you feel like you need more information about how to manage stress, you might revisit episodes 7, 15, and 46. But part of supporting our mental health and well-being is through self-care. And so when we practice self-care and make space for things that calm and recharge us, we are much more likely to have a positive experience during the holidays. So that might be anything from walks in nature, meditating, scheduling downtime, journaling, exercising. And I want to remind you that I have a free resource, 5 steps to identify and prioritize self-care habits. And this can be easily implemented for the holidays. And I want you to find it. And if you want a copy of that, all you have to do is download it at jenalley.com/freebies, or you can also click the link in the show notes, and that is going to walk you through creating and implementing a self-care plan. So I also want to say that as we started to touch into, the holidays can be loaded with mental health triggers. For some people, just getting back in touch with their family of origin can cause them to feel really overwhelmed or stressed or sad. It can bring up past trauma. It can make us regress and sort of act in ways that we don't want to act. And so we might experience grief or anticipatory grief or sadness, or we might feel like we're not measuring up to what our expectations are. And so all of these can bring up anxiety and sadness and loneliness and depression and so on. And I just want to remind you that those are all valid. And that is why having a self-care plan as well as seeking support can be so helpful during this time. Now, I want to remind you from the introduction that I am offering a free live and interactive workshop to help you learn practical self-care techniques as well as boundary setting strategies to manage the holiday stress. And again, you can register for that at jenalley.com/holidays, or you can click the link in the show notes for that. So let's take a moment to check in. What is it that you want and you need this holiday season? Now, we can't change the reality. We can't make your mom and dad who are divorced get along better. We can't make the kids not fight. We can't make everybody like the gift that they got, right? There are going to be those hard realities. And what, despite that, is your hope? What is it that you need and you want? You know, there was a year during COVID where we stayed home and we actually got in the hot tub and we had a very relaxed day. And to be honest, I was kind of dreading Christmas. Actually, I forgot this, my husband had COVID during that time. It was that first year of COVID, and it was really hard and I was dreading it. And to be honest, it actually ended up being really restorative. We just took it easy that day. We weren't really allowed to leave at that time anyways. And of course, we didn't want to pass germs to anyone. And so we just took it easy. And, my kids and I played games and we sat outside so we could be with my husband. And I just share this to say that sometimes what we might want might look really different than what we think is the typical holiday or the expectation of what holidays should be like. So with that, you might think about what are easy yeses or easy nos? What are the things that you definitely want to do? Or what are the things that you definitely don't want to do? I was thinking about how something that I would like to do, and I haven't because, again, trying to maybe manage other people's expectations or keep up with what the desired schedule is I would really like to do some kind of a run or a walk, some kind of trot before Thanksgiving or before Christmas. I think that sounds really nice and fun and restorative and helpful for stress. And so I was thinking like, okay, well, how can I fit that in? And how can I maybe just ask for what I need instead of dismissing my own needs in order to make the schedule happen? So I would love for you to think about what are easy yeses, what are easy nos, what are things that I need and that I want and that I'm going to ask for and try to implement. And again, like especially if you live in a family system and your intention is to spend time with them, it's not going to be perfect, right? And you're going to maybe have to do some things you don't want to do or that aren't like your easiest yeses, but that's part of it. But I think if we can recharge and set up little pit stops for us along the way, it's going to really help us to get through the holidays with more ease. So with this, I want you to think about, can I set a realistic expectation or desire or hope for the holidays? Again, it is super easy to get swept up in the idea of a picture perfect holiday, but perfection is a heavy burden to carry and it is not possible. So again, thinking back about what really matters to you, what will make this season meaningful to you. Maybe it's just a cozy dinner with close friends instead of a big party. Maybe it's roasting marshmallows in front of the fire. Maybe it's letting go of the need for a spotless house or the perfect gift. But I want you to give yourself permission to define what is a happy enough holiday for me. So next, let's talk about boundaries. And I know that this can be really tough, especially with family, because maybe we're trying to keep the peace or not cause conflict, or maybe it's with our partner's family. But it is okay to say no sometimes, or it's okay to offer a different time to do something. And so, as a reminder, boundaries are a form of self-care and they are essential for maintaining our mental health. And boundaries ultimately not only help ourselves, but they also can protect the relationship. So that way we don't build up a ton of resentment toward the other person because we are stating our needs and trying to find some middle ground. So decide what you're willing to commit to, where you need to draw the line. And for more on boundaries, you might check out episodes 40 and 41 of this podcast. Of course, as we stated in the introduction, budgeting and financial stress are a very real part of the holidays. And I think that for many people, the holidays bring tons of financial strain, even debt. And maybe we might even want to put our head in the sand and not even think about it. But I would just invite you to really think about what is a budget that feels doable for me? What is a budget that feels like it's not going to cause a ton of stress and anxiety that is ongoing for me? And so it's helpful to think about, who do I really need to be getting gifts for? Maybe we can do a secret Santa, or, each person draws a name. Or maybe we can do some kind of a get together where we don't do gifts or where we do homemade gifts. And so again, I know that this can be outside of maybe the ideal version of a bajillion presents, but the reality is that the ongoing stress and anguish and conflict that comes from overspending at the holidays is a really big burden. And so I just invite you to try to get clear on what is our budget for this and what's going to put us in a position where our mental health and well-being, which, financial stress can really impact us. How can we prioritize our mental health in gift giving and maintaining some sort of budget? And so I just would invite you again to focus on actually talking about that and setting up a budget. We are going to talk more about this in other episodes, but I also just want to say that social and family interactions can be really difficult and really hard. So taking a break, taking a few deep breaths before entering, going outside, grounding, practicing mindfulness, all of those things can be really helpful. And again, we will talk more about that in upcoming episodes. So in conclusion, I just want you to remember, the holiday season doesn't have to be perfect. It's okay if you're feeling overwhelmed, stressed, or even a little bit sad. A lot of us are. And I want you to give yourself permission to honor your feelings and reach out for support if you need it. There are support groups, there are grief and loss groups, there are therapists who are available to help you navigate some of these things. And I just want you to focus on, how do I care for myself? How do I create these intentional pit stops? How do I say no sometimes when I need to? How do I find the easy yeses? And how do I create a realistic expectation and vision for this holiday season in order to try to cultivate more peace and more joy and less internal stress and conflict? So thank you so much for tuning in today. I hope you found something helpful. And if you did, if you could please share it with a friend or a family member who might benefit from it. And again, if you have not yet left a written review on Apple Podcasts, that would be so helpful for me, because that is, first of all, lets me know that you're listening and that you're enjoying the show. It also helps other listeners to find this podcast. And tune back in for the next few weeks as we'll be diving into more on navigating the holidays. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope that you have a good week.